What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank, and today's video is going to be directed towards Indians, Indian Americans, and I'm talking about Indians from India. All right, Indians from India. And the reason why I want to do this is because it seems like everybody else gets to talk about African Americans, and they get to talk about how we need to do this and we need to do that, or when we're fighting for our for racial justice, they Indians, along with other people in the other POCs and including Europeans, seem to have a say on what it is we should do in terms of that, whether we should let certain things go or whether we should fight for it or whatnot, right? And so I feel like if everybody can have an opinion of what it is that African Americans or African people globally have to do to either improve themselves economically, socially, or whatever that may be, I think that it's okay for me to do the same thing for them, right? Because I see right now Indian people are having a problem with racism globally. Indian people have a problem with racism in America. They have a problem with racism in Australia. They have a problem with racism in Europe. Every place that Indian people live and operate as a community around white people, they have a problem with racism. And they're trying to figure out how can they solve how can they stop being discriminated against globally? What can they do to stop being discriminated against for being Indian? How can they solve that problem? And as an African American, I think that I have a plan that I can probably lay out for them, and I can probably express maybe a few options and opinions that if I gave it to them, then maybe if they took my examples, they could probably help push themselves further in the fight for social justice. And the first thing I need to explain to the audience that are not Indian and to the people who are Indian and don't know, and because I'm talking directly to you Indians, is your caste system is the main issue why you will never defeat racism until you defeat the caste system and that toxic culture of discrimination within your own cultures. That's that's the raw truth. Now, this video is going to be objective, and I'm talking to you as an African American male who can see from my position what it is you need to do tactically to defeat the things that you feel like as a group of people you need to defeat. And this is what you have to do. If you don't do these things, it won't happen. Okay, so the problem what people don't understand in the Indian community is that Indian people have this caste system, right? And they believe they come from a certain portion of the Caucasus Mountains. All right, there's a place in the Caucasus Mountains. A lot of these Indian people believe that they originate from. Right, the same place that we know that the European originate from. Right, we're talking about the people who the progenitors of them. Right, but within the caste system, right, it's part of their is I'll say quasi religious social order that mythos they have created, where the people at the top called the Brahmins are the ones closest to God, right? So the Brahmins are the most valued people in India, and the Brahmins are the ruling class of India. And then you have I can't remember the other different levels, but the Brahmins are on top, closest to God, and then the rest there's other classes to go down. Then you have the untouchables. The untouchables are basically the black Africans who were either that came over from Eastern Africa about 400 to 500 years ago. They migrated themselves to India. They weren't slaves. They migrated themselves from India about 400 years ago. And then there's another group of Indians who migrated from Africa about 1,000 years ago from East Africa who are already there. And then also the original inhabitants of India, the original population of India, the ones who populated and created all the ancient artifacts, all the ancient civilizations that we see, the Indus Valley. The Indus Valley people were Africans, black Africans, coming from Africa, and they migrated over to India and made all those great Indian civilizations that you see on TV. So those were the black Africans who went over there and became the Indians who started the ancient Indian civilization. Then you had the Asians who came from the Mongoloids, came down from the side and came to the area that we call Indian. Some of them look more Asian, more East Asian. But then we have the Caucasus Indians who are more European. They look like the steppes. They look more like the Astans. Pakistan and India once was the same country. So you look how Pakistani looks. You look at, you talk about Afghanistan, Pakistan. They got a border with Russia. These are the Indo-European people you're talking about. These mixed European, Indo-Euro, Asian, like this is where they all met, kind of up there, right? So Indian people and Europeans have a connection with the Caucasus, and they both believe they're the original inhabitants of the Caucasus. So that's where they got their connection from. So the Brahmins, being the closest to God in the upper class of Indian, they look down upon everybody else. And there's a horrible culture to where you're born into. You can never elevate within the Indian society because Indians have a set caste system. It's been going on for so long. Everybody, even though Indians, they have made it illegal. It's illegal technically, but the cult, it still persists. And it permeates all the way down to where all you see all the light skin. You look at Indian TV, Indian movies, all the light skin people, the northern Indo-Europeans who rule India, who are the ones you see on TV, the whiter looking, and they bleach themselves and bleach culture, and they look down on black skin. So because they look down on black skin, the original inhabitants of India have been pushed down to a caste that means nothing. They're servants, they're maids, they're slaves, they're the domestic, they're the peasants, right? But they are the original inhabitants of what we call India, right? India is not just like Africa. India really isn't one country. India is really many different kingdoms of many different peoples coming from many different places, right? But then all the thing about, the great stuff you see about India, that's African people who did that. That's the big secret. But because of the Brahmin culture and the worship of light white skin, and because of that Indo-European culture, that Indus Caucasus culture that came down to India, they look down upon all of that stuff and they push up and elevate that other culture from that other group. So you're talking about a repression of the original inhabitants of India, the darker people. The darker you are, the worse you are. So for Indians, the ones that have the money because of the upper part of society, when you see them travel to other countries, these are usually the Brahmins. Most of them are Sikhs. So you see those Sikhs, they look like Muslims. They got the turbans. They got those big old museums. They got those big old like temples and stuff like that. They get misunderstood as Muslims, but they're not. They're Sikhs. It's a separate religion. Most of them are Brahmin Indians. They look down upon almost everybody, right? See, what Indian people don't realize is that caste system, higher echelon part of society, it really doesn't translate out of India. In India, you guys rule, you dominate, you do this and do that. And then you take that culture and you go to other places. And when you treat other people, because since you're the whitest, the lightest, the fairest of all, you think that you have some sort of kumbaya with the European, as the European will use that sentiment to put you in between what they're doing to you and your people and what they're doing to people who are browner than you, right? You become the wedge. You become a layer of armor to protect the white European and the rich oligarchs of the white Europeans, all their business moves globally, right? That's why they always use Indians in Africa as soldiers. They use Indians in Africa to put a wedge between the African that they were exploiting and then themselves. That's why Indian people have a hard time in Africa sometimes. And you guys don't wonder why. Is because not only do they don't like you because you're brown, to them, you're brown. It doesn't matter how light your skin is. They don't connect because of the actual lightness of your skin. Because that was the case, they would also view Han Asians as their equals, as they all white, right? If it was really a skin thing, it's not. It's a European, Anglo-Saxon thing, right? It's them thing, right? So when they look at you guys, you're just like us, right? But they make you feel like you're better than us only to put you between us. But to them, you're just like us. We welcome you, you don't welcome us in general, right? So while you think it's okay due to your caste system and bringing your culture out in other countries, you think it's okay for you to look down upon black people. You have to look down upon black people because you look down upon the black people in your own country. You can't very well put black people on an equal footing, right? Because if you did that, it would mess up the way you're socially set up in India, because you would have to also put dark-skinned Indians on equal footing, which that would mess up the way your lives are in India. That would mess up. That would mean you would have to bring those people you've been subjugating in India up. You would have to lift them up socially, economically, and give them the same level of prestige as you. You would have to give up the benefits of being a Brahmin, being this and the other levels, the benefits of having this prestige, the benefits of being born with privilege. You have privilege. You have to give that up, right? In order to give the black man respect, and you're not willing to do that. So because you're not willing to do that, you don't have any allies outside of your Indian race, or how you want to say it, because I know you guys don't like to be mixed up with the other Asians as Asians, even though you kind of say Asian, but you want to be distinct from the Han Chinese, those type of Asians. I understand that, right? But the problem is, as long as you continue to disrespect the original inhabitants of India, as long as you persist on participating and practicing your caste system, right? So you can maintain the conveniences of that, right? The rest of the world will never respect you. They will never, no one's going to fight for you, right? Or be your ally when it comes to a white person discriminated against you. When it comes to white people disenfranchising you, no one's going to back you up because the world can see you do that, right? Your natural allies are actually African. Those are your natural allies are the brown people in your country and the Africans, technically. And that's why it's so disheartening that you guys are the most racist people on the planet. Like our literal cousins, the Indians, you guys are the only people outside of Africa that come close to our rhythm and our connection with rhythm and all that. You're right on the outside, but you guys are the most racist towards black people out of any group of people on the planet, which makes no sense and is asinine and has to do with the subjugation that Britain put upon you, and you guys are still subjugated mentally by the British Empire, right? And keep in mind, the British Empire, everywhere you go around the world and you follow that European, you're following the same Europeans that came to your country and killed millions upon millions of your people. You give more respect to the people that came and destroyed and killed and genocided and raped and just demolished your entire culture. You give more praise and admiration and respect to them and praise to them than you do to Africans who's never done anything to you. Who's Africans who never came and destroyed your civilizations, whose Africans never came and enslaved you, who Africans never came and committed genocide upon you, who Africans never came to India and never did anything to disenfranchise the Indian ever. The only thing we ever did was come and be mercenaries for your armies when you asked. The only thing we ever did was come and build armies and protect India from outside forces like we did. The only thing we ever did was help India when India needed help. And what did you guys do? Y'all shat on us and kissed the masses that enslaved you. Because you want to hold on to that caste system of a society that you know that's toxic within your communities because you don't want to give up the benefit of it. So because you don't want to give up the benefit of it, no one's going to have your back when the white man is treating you like he treats everybody else who has melanin in their skin, even if they think that they light skin like them. So what you guys need to do is tackle the caste system within your communities and treat the Indian people who are the native population and the original inhabitants of your country that you're so proud of. You need to treat them with respect and uplift them socially and economically and cast away and cancel that toxic culture that got you in the situation that you're in today. And when you do that and you connect with your brothers and sisters on the African continent like you should, and ally with the people who should be your natural allies, the African like you should, you along with us, we will be the majority, we will be the super mega majority on the planet, and nobody could ever disrespect us. It's better to be allied with the African than the European. We got the numbers and we are the future. Like it or not, you see Africa is the future and we're getting our shit together. Globally, Africans are the future and you know it, and we're getting our shit together. So how long do you think you can continue to disrespect Africans globally and thinking that once we get to a certain position and we can now sanction you for your bad behavior, how long do you think it's going to take and what are you going to do about it when the time gets here? Because if your culture is a negative culture, then you'll be sanctioned by Africans, or you won't be protected from when Europeans start to target you as weak targets when they need to get more resources because they can't get it from Africans no more. What are you going to do? What are you going to do when Africa becomes the economic center of the world. And you're going to have to come to Africa to do business to make money. America is not going to be the place to come and make money anymore at some point. It's going to be Africa. What are you going to do when now you have to live and respect people in their societies in order to live the Indian dream? What are you going to do when you're going to need African resources to live the Indian dream, to build Indian businesses? What are you going to do then? Do you think that your caste system, your disrespect of dark-skinned people is going to be conducive to positive business when Africans finally get to where we are? Do you think we're going to forget about the atrocities, to forget about the disrespect, forget about the disenfranchisement, to forget about the racism? You think we're going to forget about it? So you guys need to look deep down within your culture, fix that caste system, fix that toxic culture, relearn how to be decent human beings towards other human beings who have different complexions from you. Fix yourselves, improve yourselves, the same way you do yourselves scholastically when you go to these universities and you compete when it comes to education and get those top jobs. You need to compete socially and be a social example on the world of how to be as a group of people. And how about you compete in that, how to be good people, compete in that arena. And if you treat people better, you'll get treated better. You treat people with respect, you'll have natural allies who will respect you and have your back. Imagine if you had Africans as your actual natural allies. Who could ever say anything to you? Imagine that. Who could ever do anything to India if India's best friends was Africa? Canada and America. It should be India and Africa. That's how it should be globally. Just like Canada, you can't even Canada, America. What is it? What's the difference, huh? Nobody even really cares about that border up there, right? That's how the relationship should be between Indians and Africans. You understand how much power that is? Do you understand? But you rather have connection to the people that did historically destroyed you, historically disenfranchised you, historically lied to you, historically disrespected you every opportunity they had when you got relaxed and thought you guys were friends. So you guys have a lot of things to do within your community to improve how you guys view the world, view other people. And I guarantee you, the moment you improve yourself, you're outside, there's no way that you can be bullied by anybody else because you will have a good friend in any African anywhere globally. I'm just saying. Because we are the best friends any group of people could possibly have on the planet. If you good with Africans globally, you good. And there are certain smart groups of people out there who understand that. Anyway, tell me what you guys think in the comment section. This is Afro Think Tank. Learn something, teach some. I'm out.